everyone, and welcome to another exciting game from the 2019 Altibox Norway Championship. It's a game between Ding Liren and Wesley So, and their classical game ended in a draw, so we're not going to be showing that one, as I still haven't decided if I will be showing both games, both classical and the Armageddon one, or just the Armageddon one. But for now, until I decide otherwise, we're just going to be sticking with either one of them, or maybe in some rare case, maybe I will show both of them in the same video, but not on this one. So, like I said, they drew their classical game, and now, as Ding had the white pieces in the classical event, he also now gets the white pieces in Armageddon. So, 10 minutes for Ding, 7 minutes for Wesley, and Ding has to win the game. So, let's see what happened in the game. Ding opened with c4, the English opening. We have e6, and now knight to c3. We have d5 by Wesley, and now d4, and here knight to f6. So a bit of a different order of moves, but we are again in the Queen's Gambit declined. Here we have c captures on d5. Ding goes for the early capture. Knight captures on d5, and now e4. Knight captures on c3, b captures on c3, and now c5, just attacking a nice flank attack against white strong center. And here, rook to b1. Always a useful move. Black probably will not be developing the bishop via g6 and bishop to g7. That way we would, well, pretty much transpose into the Grunfeld, but rather bishop to e7 will be played. But the rook is already nicely placed here on the semi-open b file. We have knight to f3 by Ding, preparing to develop the bishop, and also castle. We have castles by Wesley. And here it's interesting that Wesley So already played this position. He played it against Carlsen in Abidjan in the Côte d'Ivoire this year. We already covered that game. It was in the Rapids where Carlsen won, and in that game Carlsen went bishop to e2. But Ding doesn't play this line, and of course Wesley most likely improved on that line. So he goes bishop to c4. But it's interesting, Ding already had this position against Vladimir Kramnik, but we're gonna get to that very soon. To bishop e2, the move Carlsen played, Wesley replied with b6, but here he goes a6, and he's preparing b5 to push back the bishop. So Ding prevents it. We have a4, and now queen to c7, preparing to capture, and from then the queen will be attacking the bishop on c4. And as I already mentioned, Ding had this position in 2017 in Antalya against Vladimir Kramnik, where he played bishop to d3. So he retreated this way, but now he goes bishop to e2. The game against Kramnik ended in a draw, so bishop to e2, a different line. Maybe Wesley does not know this one. And here, this position has been reached before. For example, in Croatian Championship 2018, Sasha Martinovic had this position against Ante Šarić, where c captures on d4 was played. That game ended in a draw, but here we have b6 by Wesley, preparing to fianchetto the light square bishop, and as of this moment, as of move 11, we have a completely new game. Sorry if I sneeze now and then. I seem to have caught something, I don't know, because it was raining in Croatia for like the past 30 days, and now it's very sunny, like for the past few days, and now, you know, I'm starting to feel it. So sorry about that. We have castles by Ding, and now comes c captures on d4. C captures on d4 and bishop to b7. So fianchettoing the light square bishop while attacking this guy here, and now bishop to d3. So a lot of moves with the bishop, with the light square bishop for Ding, but at some point d5 or e5 will be played, and this bishop definitely belongs on d3 to control this very important diagonal. We have knight to c6. Wesley starts developing pieces, and now rook to b3. Sorry about that. I have prepared some water in case this happens. Rook to b3, a very nice rook lift. From there, after bishop b1, and let's see if this knight moves, the rook can now come into g3 or even h3 to start an attack against the black king. So a very nice rook lift by Ding, but Wesley immediately reacts and pushes it back. We have knight to a5, rook to b2, and now knight back to c6. Just, you know, he has the black pieces. It's Armageddon. All Wesley needs is a draw. So Ding has to figure out another way how to go about this. We have rook to d2 by Ding, and now comes rook f to d8. Bishop to b2 now. Now both bishops are nicely placed on this diagonal, and we have rook a to c8 here, going for this last rook that needs to be developed. And here Ding says, okay, now it's time to open up the bishop pair. He pushes d5, and before capturing, Wesley first goes knight to b4. It's a very useful move. It opens up this queen rook battery to control the c file. Also from there it pressures the light square bishop and also controls the d5 square one more time. And now the knight and bishop are also defending it. So here bishop to b1. Ding of course is not interested in giving the bishop pair. And now e captures on d5, but now not recapturing, but rather e5, and now the bishop comes alive. And at some point, Ding is definitely threatening even e6, which would of course free the dark square bishop as well. So what do you do here? If black plays a slow move, let's say something like a5, then e6 immediately comes, and after f captures, knight goes to d4, hoping to jump over here, and it's just a very unpleasant position for black to play. So g6 by Wesley, numbing the power of this bishop on b1, and we have rook to e1 by Ding. We have d4 blocking the dark square bishop, also freeing up the light square bishop on b7, and finally we have e6 from Ding. So what do you do here? Wesley doesn't like capturing, so he goes f6. Now, is this one of those cases where it's actually okay to play f6? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that is to continue watching. Knight captures on d4 by Ding. Now, nicely placed knight guards this pawn here, and it's really a critical position. Here, Wesley should definitely go queen to f4, nicely bringing the queen into the game, and if you push it back, queen to h6, and the queen will very nicely be defending the king side. But also here Wesley would already have some threats like queen h3 to queen to g2 checkmate, as the bishop is, like we mentioned, nicely fianchettoed on b7. But instead, after knight captures on d4, Wesley went back knight to c6. He wants to trade on d4, but it simply doesn't work. So feel free to pause the video and try to find the best idea for white in this position while I have a nice sip of my water. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you are an excellent maneuver of the knight. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, the idea is knight to f5, and it's a really sneaky idea, especially for a blitz game. How Ding spots it. Well, okay, it's technically not a blitz game, it's a 10 versus 7, but I wouldn't really call it a rapid either, so let's just call it an Armageddon. The idea is very nice because if the knight is captured, then queen to h5 will win you the game at some point. It's impossible to say how far Ding calculated it, but you know, there are a lot of sneaky lines. For example, knight e5 blocking the dark square bishop, trying to bring the knight over to help out. Bishop captures, you will give up the dark square bishop, f captures, and now rook to d7 is deadly. And you don't really have a good move. If you move the queen, then you lose the bishop. If you don't move the queen, if you capture, then first queen to f7 check, and after king to h8, now bishop captures on f5. And now you can see that there is very little you can do to defend against checkmate. You have to play bishop to f8, now the rook controls the h7 square, but now e captures on d7. And again, the queen no longer can help out. Queen captures on h7 is next. Here you would have to play queen captures, just give up the queen, and after queen captures, again you're threatening checkmate. You'd have to go here, but then, you know, severe loss of material will occur, and it's just over for black. So knight f5, beautiful move by Ding. Wesley does not, of course, capture it. He plays rook captures on d2, but now first knight captures on e7, eliminating a very important defender here. And now f6 will no longer be guarded by such a nice dark square bishop. We have queen captures on e7, now comes queen captures on d2, and now king to g7. You have to help out with the defense of the f6 pawn, and now queen to f4. Now Ding is about to pile up on the f6 pawn. We have rook to f8, defending the f6 pawn, and now h4, starting to bust open the king side. We have bishop to c8 now, but Ding just ignores it. We have h5, going after the black king, and now knight to e5. And here, of course, you do not want to win a pawn by playing bishop captures, but rather rook captures, as this diagonal is simply much too important. We have f captures, and now comes queen captures on e5 with check. And now you don't really have all that many squares here. If you go king g8, queen h8 is checkmate. The pawn is controlling the f7 square. On the other hand, if you play rook to f6, just blocking, then you capture, and after h captures on g6, you will play queen to g5. You will be enjoying this spin very much, because whatever black plays, you are capturing on g6 with check. You cannot capture due to the pin. After the king moves, then comes bishop captures on f6, and you will be down material, but also you're just dead lost here with black. So after queen captures on e5 with check, king to h6 was played, but here Ding just continues the onslaught. We have h captures on g6, h captures, and now of course it's a forced checkmate. So feel free to pause the video and try to find this very nice mating sequence. With best defense it's mate in 6, but you know, if you can do better, feel free to try. I'll give you a couple of seconds while I have the last sip of my water. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you are an excellent mater in 6. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, queen to h2 check. And now you don't really have all that much to do. King to g5 was played, and here after queen to g3 check, it was in this position that Wesley So resigned the game. He resigned because, well, whatever you do, if king h6, then this is mate in 1, just queen captures on g6, but we of course want to see the best defense, and that is of course, well, you just have to move, let's say king h5, so now if queen captures on g6, you can move, which is what will happen. Queen captures here, king has to move, now comes g3, king to h3, and now just bishop to f5 check. You can capture with the rook, and now queen captures on f5 is checkmate, and it's just a beautiful position, a beautiful checkmate. But also, either you could have also done queen to h5 or even queen to f5 check. This is even nicer. You know, if you have an option of sacrificing your queen, you should always do it, as it is much cooler. So a nice bishop mate. The pawn, of course, prevents the king from reaching h4, and the king covers d square, so it's all very nice. So yeah, an excellent victory for King Ding, and probably we're going to show one more game, so we're going to talk about the standings then. But yeah, I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Vasily Kerov, Alan Rasmussen, Stefan Schmidt, Crystal Kiefer, and David Sagan for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, hopefully with some more interesting content. And I would once again like to thank everyone for, you know, all of your updates on the agadmator chess clock. Really, so many nice ideas, and we hope to implement them all well, very soon. But I will keep you posted. So yeah, thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.